After such a fire year in anime in 2023, I wasn't expecting this year to start off with something that's been on my bingo card for literal years, as it just seems so out of reach because it's long been finished its manga run and the anime itself was cut short before it could even catch up due to what I'm assuming is DVD and toy sales. But apparently, this year's the best year of all time already because we're getting another Hitman Reborn. Jesus, sorry, I just love this anime. Let me backpedal and clarify, this dub is only 4 episodes right now. The team over at Discotek Media have put together a fan disc as a test, presumably to see if there's enough hype around it to justify doing the full stretch, which I hope they get enough motion to do, honestly, because the dub sounds so freaking good. But man, I'm excited even still, so I decided to talk about it a bit, and hopefully me gushing about it a bit will inspire some of you to give it a chance, because honestly, I want more of this anime, and if we can get a full dub of it, that would be incredible. But anywho, I want to tell a little story just for setup here. There's actually a point in time where I slowly started to slip away from indulging in anime very on and off, back in my transition from middle to high school, because honestly at the time, not a lot was grabbing me. Around the same time though, things like Crunchyroll were getting bigger and slowly going away were the times of the Databayo fan subs and watching everything in 10 freaking parts on YouTube. And the Crunchyroll catalog specifically, as well as what was more openly available on other sites at the time, was massive. Most importantly though, things like multi-anime openings and AMVs were in their prime, and I was consuming them like crazy. And I ran into this one using the song Dive to World, which I instantly fell in love with the song, of course, and I had to look up what anime it was from. And of course, upon doing just a little bit of research, I ran into Katekyo Hitman Reborn, which thankfully was on that new fabled Crunchyroll service, and thus began what I consider the golden age of my love for anime. Now, I'm not going to recap every little detail about Reborn's story arcs, because I really want everyone to go and watch it if they haven't ever, but to summarize, Reborn starts off as more of a comedic slice-of-life anime about a boy named Suna, aka No Good Suna, or Loser in some cases, who, under the guidance of a famous hitman, Reborn, he ends up getting into all sorts of situations. Over time, though, it slowly becomes a battle shonen, similar to, say, Yu Yu Hakusho or early Dragon Ball. Now, don't get me wrong, it's nothing too crazy, but what really got me into Hitman Reborn at first was actually the slice-of-life portions. We get to spend an ample amount of time getting to know every character and even getting some setup that as you watch the show, it actually just pays off nicely before it even ends. But what got me to stick around and what ignited my own flame for this show, no pun intended, was the Desperation Flame and the first big arc, the Varia arc, and the elements it introduced to the series. Now, when the anime starts to really ramp up and get into its first major arc, we start to lean in heavy on the idea that Suna is the next in line successor of this mafia group called the Vongola. But of course, to add some tension to this, we get a group of individuals led by Zanzis called the Varia, and their main goal is to get the right to become the Vongola. What ensues is this battle for these things called the Vongola Rings. This arc essentially gives us each individual member training and fighting these intense fights to claim their spots. Within these fights, we get more insight on the properties of the different Desperation Flames, and believe it or not, this is the part that hooked me. I don't know if it has something to do with being a Sagittarius or if I'm just low-key a pyromaniac, but I've always had this affinity towards flame-based things, and really, I blame Hitman Reborn because it started here. Not only did the Desperation Flame serve multiple purposes within the series outside of combat, as we learn down the road, but as we see in the Varia arc, it's the basis for all the powers and abilities in the series, and it allowed people to do some of the craziest things. And of course, young me thought this was cool as hell. The flames themselves all came in different colors, each representing different attributes of the sky, specifically for the Vongola at least. I think the highlight for me though was actually the flame type the main character Suna utilized, the sky flames. Not only did they look cool, but a big part of Suna going into this form with the Desperation flames ignited was the demeanor change. Suna typically is squirmish and very down to earth, sometimes even easily spooked, but when the flames are out, he's calm and collected, badass even. Clearly things that appeal to teenage boys, me included. During his initial fights, we get to see him pull off crazy things, and even using his flames to fly at high speeds and seemingly freeze other flames and redirect the energy to use on his own. And I don't know, man, it was just cool to see these kind of things in action, because usually flames just burn things, but here there's just so many layers to what they could do with them. And I don't know how many of y'all are into making your own OCs or original characters and whatnot, but to this day, a big part of all of mine have been based around the ideas spread throughout this show, and even keeping with the flame motif. Really, that's just the tip of the iceberg though. Surprisingly, even once we get to the more actiony parts of the anime, they still find time to have some good comedy mixed in there. Genuinely, there's a lot of moments I remember laughing my ass off at with the entire cast. Specifically this one little shit, Lambo, who, growing up, I found him annoying, but upon rewatches, I actually began to love this little cow baby, cowman. Honestly, I don't know what Lambo is, but he's half cow and tiny sometimes. But looking at him now, he's almost like the silly little brother that I never had. And I won't touch on this too much, as not to spoil anything, but some of the emotional beats of the series really hit home growing up. Not that they had me over here bawling tears or anything, but they give you time to really connect with the characters and see them grow and mature often. Nowadays, people either really hate filler and want less, or are begging for more filler to develop characters. But I feel like there's a happy medium of it here that could satisfy people in most cases. There's a lot of content here to enjoy one way or another. Also, this part might be subjective, but the main cast is absolutely dripped out. Not just their regular outfits either, but with the team being an actual mafia and all, they end up dressing the part on later occasions and often pulling up in dress attire, weapons in hand, on some actual gang shit. Coming full circle here though, my absolute favorite thing about Hitman Reborn, the thing that got me into it in the first place, the thing even that I believe even if you don't watch this anime you should give a spin, are the openings. As a huge anime fan, lover even at times, absolutely love a good OP, and in my years of watching, I don't think I've seen many anime with ones like Hitman that are as consistent and fitting for each arc they represent. But also they've stuck with me as long as they've did beyond the anime's initial run, outside of a handful of exceptions here and there within the anime stratosphere. And I'm not talking about anime with only like 2 openings. I'm talking about the ones that go 4 and beyond even that to almost 20 openings sometimes. Very few manage to find the magic through the entire run, and in some cases they even find it and stick with the one opening. For Reborn though, coming in at a nicely symmetrical 8 openings, each one of Hitman Reborn's openings hits in its own way. I have no idea what the process is for choosing openings, but somehow they managed to hit the lottery on their lineup. It's honestly hard to pick my favorites because I genuinely love every single one, but if I had to pick 3 I listened to a lot as of recent, I'd say Drawing Days, the first opening, the 4th opening, 88, and opening 8, the last one, Listen to the Stereo. If I had to describe them and how they make me feel, Drawing Days is just pure nostalgia. As I listen to this one, it reminds me of simpler times, aimless days even as a child, looking for my footing in the world and still figuring out how to express myself. Not having much care in the world and having much time to indulge in things I loved. It really feels like a coming of age opening, if that makes sense. Honestly, it's right up there with the likes of Days by Flo for me. The band that performs the song, Splay, honestly killed it, and this opening just reeks early 2000s anime vibes. The first opening does this really cool thing too, where partway through the first season, it actually has a variant version of the opening, and we get to see this really cool fight montage between Suna and one of the later introduced characters. Which, let me say, I wish that tradition was brought back. Anime like Jujutsu Kaisen have done it recently, but I want to see it come back in full swing, because honestly, it's like a nice little treat. Opening for 88 honestly has a very similar feel at first, but coupled along with the visuals and its inevitable drop moment, it gives me the sense of growing and discovery. You know, real new adventure stuff. It properly feels like it prepares you for the arc it starts off. This might just be me too, but the band that performs the song, LM.C, honestly kind of reminds me of Panic at the Disco, but for the Japanese audience. They also, of course, absolutely killed this opening, and specifically the middle part, the guitar riff, where we get to see the little fight montage in the opening, is probably my favorite moment in any anime opening, honestly. It just kind of hits right. It all ends with this awesome build-up at the end where we see Suna just kind of charge up his Desperation Flames and do a good little spin around and give us a good, nice main protagonist pose at the end that tops off the opening. It's really cool. And listen to the stereo. Man, it just feels like saying goodbye, but also embracing a new future filled with hope. Within context of the series, it kinda is, I suppose, as the last opening for the anime. It's honestly quite hard to describe it without tearing up, honestly. I remember by the time I personally got to this point in the series, I was going through a transitionary period in my own life. It just warms my heart listening to it though, and seeing Suna and the rest of the Bengola one more time pulls on my heartstrings. The song itself honestly has this kind of swelling effect as the opening builds up, and coupled along with the visuals and just all the emotional scenes in it, we get this really nice kind of bow on the end of the series. Going Underground, the band that made this song, honestly just really nailed the triumphant final hurrah feeling that I feel all anime need for their last season, honestly, and not all anime get that opening or even get to that point, really. All in all, I love this series dearly. It'll always hold a special place in my heart as one of the ones that got me fully back into watching anime. I pray with this release of the limited dub, we get a full dubbing of the entire series eventually, if they get enough buzz, maybe. Also, for those who've never watched it, hopefully hearing me yap about it possibly inspires you to go check it out for yourself and see what the anime is all about. Who knows, maybe even with enough backing behind it, they'll actually go ahead and continue the anime, and possibly even finish out where it left off, all the way to the very end, where the manga actually got to. For those watching though that have watched Hitman Reborn, tell me about your experience with it. Hearing about this series in 2024 really has a little fire in my heart, and I very much plan on talking about the other anime that shaped my tastes and even solidified my love for this type of content in the future. So if you'd like to see more, please let me know, and even suggest a new anime for me to watch, as I'm constantly looking for stuff to check out. For those who have made it this far into the video, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.